On.
Okay. I heard that.
Good.
Ups and downs of a Christian. That's a good way to start it, wouldn't it? There's a song that they sing at church. Oh, Peter, don't you be afraid. Oh, Peter, don't you be afraid. And it's talking about Peter stepping out on the water. And the reason why this song is loved so much is because of so many ups and downs that the Christian experiences. Sometimes we feel like a Christian. Sometimes we don't. Sometimes we feel worthy. And sometimes we don't. Sometimes we feel like absolutely no way God should pick me for this. And other times we feel like, man, I'm going now. Just watch me go. If my mama could see me now, you know, that type of thing. But in the Bible, in Matthew 14:28, tells a story of where it actually starts a little bit before that. In the NIV, it says when he got down to the part where Peter said, "If it be you, Lord, tell me to come to you." The NIV says, "Lord, if it's you," Peter replied, "tell me to come to you on the water." The story of Jesus walking. You know, and man, you know, everybody has a time, a hope of being able to walk in the water in life's story, you know what I'm saying? And physically, oh my goodness, what an accomplishment that would be in every Christian's life. But you know something, faith is like this. Faith is knowing. If you I'm laughing because my older brother told me one time, said, "You act like you can walk on water." I says, "Well, how do you know I haven't?" And I think my older brother will eventually become more famous than me for his snide attitude of me talking about him rather than anybody ever really getting to know him. Because sometimes my older brother can be a really good guy, but you know how older brothers are, you that have them. And I said, "You know what?" I've been the smart aleck right back. I says, "I did walk on the water." I said, "It was frozen at the time, but I walked on it." And with not a whole lot of confidence, by the way. I'm always leery of walking on ice. But faith is like this. If you're going to walk on water, you know that you're going to walk on it. You don't have to go down to the lake every day and test your faith. See, I'm going to go down to the lake and I'm going to see if I can walk on water today. That's not how faith works. Faith is you already know that you're going to walk on water before you ever get there. Psalms 119:11 says, "Thy word have I hidden in my heart, that I might not sin against thee." Okay, and that is an assurance of what is in you is going to come forth and deliver you. That's faith. An assurance. Faith is believing that God will. Faith is an action word. It's acting on what you believe. That's faith. The walking on the water is an action that you do because of the belief that you have in you. It's not a test of belief. Testing is what can help you perfect that, knowing what God will do for you in that time. And that's what I'm saying. Sometimes you feel like you can, and sometimes you feel like a nut, sometimes you don't. Sometimes you know that you can, and sometimes you like, you know. And that's why it's so important to get close to God. And that's why it's so important to keep His Word in you, to keep going, to keep looking, to keep building, to keep acting. And, you know, those television evangelists, They preach Jesus is coming, but they live like they're setting up their abode here forever. They get their houses and they build mansions and they close themselves in. And you know, Jesus was one that lived among the people. He said in the Bible that he has not a place to lay his head. I have a plan to build a house where I can get away and rest, you know, when ministry starts, because I know I'm going to need that. But the Lord, He'd just go out and find a place to rest. He'd say, go to this person's house and say, and take this donkey and whatever, and He'll say, tell them the Lord has need of it. And He'll have a lot more faith than we do. You know, if I go to somebody's house and I'm going to be wanting to talk to them, I'm not going to be able to sit down and, you know, just slap a movie into DVD and watch it, sit back and relax and just put nothing in my head. Just get away and rest, you know. And most evangelists, they start out doing one thing and end up doing quite another. They want to do everything that's right before God, and they end up setting themselves up like a king in the world. And my plan is to resist that. Lester Sumrall did it very successfully. You can go to where his house, he has a house just like anybody else's house. You know, I imagine that it's a comfortable house, but you're not going to find no mansion where he used to live. And he had 7 television stations. Could you imagine what he could have had if he had wanted it? 7 television stations? He could have, you know what, Lester could have set himself up to be a king of all evangelists. They said they would have been following him around today saying, man, we got to do what he did. We got to set ourselves up 7 television stations. You know, and truthfully, some men are trying to do that now. Even as we speak, they're trying to get as much as they can, to do as much as they can with, and they're leaving God's purpose. Sometimes you feel like, you know, this is what a lot of failures have been in ministry, because people just did not wait until it was the right time. They get so far off track because they didn't hear God say come. I've told the Lord, I said, Lord, I'm not stepping out onto the field until I hear you say come. Unless I hear the Lord, unless I know for sure that it's Him, I won't be out there. 10 years from today I'll be doing what I'm doing right now, unless I hear the word of the Lord say come. I'm not going any place until I hear Him say that. Why? Because the waves are overcoming out there. The waves are just really big. And they'll overcome you. I know evangelists who have failed. I know pastors who have failed because they went before the time of the Lord. They didn't stay strong. They didn't stay faithful. But they leaned on men's opinion. One of the biggest mistakes I ever made was listening to a fella who says, I think it's time for you to start a church. Now, I was a pastor for 7 years. Okay? I was a pastor for 7 years. And we had some people, we baptized some folks. We caused people to get close to the Lord. But things just would not fall together. In all of that 7 years, things just would not fall together in a way that I knew that God would be leading, you know, in things that a pastor should be doing. And it wasn't time yet. You might be the greatest pastor that ever walked the face of this planet. But if you step out before God tells you to, you're going to have a really rough time. And I plan on getting back to that, but it's going to be God's time this time, okay? And that's the ups and downs of a Christian, man. Sometimes you just want to go and do things, and other times you just want to sit back and do nothing. Sometimes you're sorry that you made these commitments, and other times, man, you're so glad. But if you make a commitment before God, keep it. Make a plan, have a day that you say, I'm going to do this, and then go ahead and do it. and make sure that it is God. But this is the way it says it in the King James Version. It says, "And Peter answered to him and said, Lord, if it be thou, bid me to come unto thee on the water." And that's it right there. On the water. A natural thing that normally will not hold you will hold you when God is in it. If God is not in it, it's not going to hold you. We're dealing with supernatural things. Okay, ups and downs. Peter went out on the water, and he got his eyes off the Lord, and he began to look at the raging sea, and he began to sink. And he did the right thing. He cried unto the Lord. Listen, if you know it's God, you know He called you out there, and you begin to sink, you call on His name, He will keep you. The Bible says He is able to finish that thing which He has started. Amen. Alrighty, God bless. Thank you for joining me. We'll see you again next time. Another great message right here, Crossing the Middle Ministry.